Bear down. 35 sacks in an entire season. That is not an elite defense. That is a defense praying the quarterback trips over his own feet. And while the Windy City waits, there is one name shaking every single conversation in the NFL right now, Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers on the planet. 5 consecutive Pro Bowls, and a 2 first-round offer that Baltimore left on the table because they blinked at the last second. Ryan Poles monitored it. Poles had the dialogue, and the numbers just did not add up. Not yet, because what is coming in 2 weeks at the 2026 NFL Draft could completely change that equation. ESPN already dropped the exact scenario that has the monsters of the Midway fan base completely split down the middle, an aggressive trade-up with Miami to grab the pick 11 and land the edge rusher that nobody wants to see walking into Halas Hall in navy and orange except the Bears themselves. The price is steep. The conditions have to be perfect, and the odds of the right player falling are very specific. But if that move does not happen, if the Bears stay at 25, the same man who called Colston Loveland when nobody else saw it coming is already pointing at the next name Dennis Allen has locked in his mind. A name out of Missouri, a name that fits millimeter perfect into the system Allen built in New Orleans, and a name that nobody in the City of the Winds is talking about nearly loud enough yet. 3 moves, 1 vision. Ryan Poles' master plan is revealing itself in real time. If you trust the process, trust. Hit that like button and subscribe to join the real Bear Nation. Bear down. 35 sacks last season. 35. That's not an elite defense, y'all. That's a defense that's basically waiting for the quarterback to trip over himself. And in a division where Jared Goff and Jordan Love are slinging the ball all over the field, you need guys who can get to the quarterback, not one guy, 2. And right now, the Bears only have 1 pass rusher who actually scares people in this league, Montez Sweat. On the other side of the line, Dayo Odeyingbo, a guy they signed with real hope who did not deliver in 2025. And that brings me straight to the elephant in the room at Halas Hall. Max Crosby, CBS sports analyst Garrett Podell came right out and said it. The Bears should be going all in to get Crosby, and this isn't just some nice-sounding name being thrown around. We're talking about one of the best edge rushers on the planet. Since entering the league in 2019, only Myles Garrett, the only 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, has more quarterback pressures than Crosby. Just one guy. Crosby has 476 in that span, 4 double-digit sack seasons. 5 straight Pro Bowl selections, and in 2025 playing through a compromised knee for a Raiders team that was an absolute disaster with a head coach who got fired after a single season. The man posted 10 sacks in 15 games, 10 on one knee in Las Vegas. Now picture this, just picture it. That same Max Crosby, healthy, fully recovered, in a Dennis Allen scheme with Montez Sweat lined up across from him. That's not a defensive line anymore, fam. That is a nightmare scenario for every offensive coordinator in the NFC North. And here's where the drama gets real, because this wasn't just a rumor. The trade almost happened. The Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens agreed to a deal that included 2 first-round picks, 2, and Baltimore backed out. The official reason was Crosby's knee. He had meniscus surgery this offseason, but let's keep it a buck, because Crosby himself said in January that his recovery has been going great, that they're checking every single box, that he'll be more than ready for training camp. And what did Baltimore do right after pulling out of that deal? They turned around and signed Trey Hendrickson. That is not a franchise that was scared of Crosby's knee. That's a franchise that got cold feet for other reasons. The Ravens blinked, and the Bears were right there watching. Ryan Poles confirmed it. He didn't deny it, didn't dodge it. He said they monitored the situation, that there was dialogue, that they looked at whether it made sense given their resources, the cap, the draft picks. That's not casual curiosity. That's a general manager who liked what he saw and walked away only because the math didn't line up at that exact moment. Now, does Crosby actually want to leave Vegas? After the trade drama, he came out publicly and recommitted to the Raiders. But listen, a player who wanted out of Las Vegas, playing for a franchise in the middle of a multi-year rebuild that could stretch way beyond his prime years, turning 29 this year, that guy's not staying on a losing team forever. At some point, Las Vegas is going to have to decide whether they'd rather lose Crosby for nothing or max out his trade value while he's still playing at an elite level. The real obstacle for Chicago is the cost. If Baltimore offered 2 first-rounders and still backed out, the starting price on this man is steep. The Bears have their picks, but they've also got needs across multiple positions on this roster. You can't empty the entire war chest for one player, no matter how good he is, unless that player genuinely transforms the franchise. And that's the question I keep coming back to. Is Max Crosby that guy? Is he worth that price? I think yes. Look, I could be wrong, but when you've got Caleb Williams at quarterback, when your competitive window's opening right now and not 3 years from now, a defense with Sweat and Crosby anchoring the edges changes the entire identity of this football team, and identity has a price tag. While that Crosby situation keeps simmering, the Bears have another enormous decision sitting right in front of them. The 2026 NFL Draft coming up in just 2 weeks, and there is one specific scenario on the table that is going to give every Bears fan chills if you think it all the way through. ESPN's Bill Barnwell laid out a proposal that has completely divided the Bears fan base. The setup: Chicago owns the 25th pick. And if one of the draft's top edge rushers falls out of the top 10, the Bears should make an aggressive trade up to the 11 slot with the Miami Dolphins. The package Barnwell proposed: the 25th overall pick, the 57th pick in the second round, and a second-round selection in the 2027 draft. In return, pick number 11 plus additional day 3 selections, a 5th rounder in each of the next 2 drafts, and an extra 7th rounder this year. The names that would justify that kind of move are David Bailey, Reuben Bain Jr., or Ohio State's Arvell Reese, who has drawn direct comparisons to Micah Parsons. Yeah, Micah Parsons, let that sink in for a second, and here's the tactical reality that makes this conversation so urgent. The Bears finished 21st in the league in sacks per passing attempt last season. They finished dead last, 31st in pass rush win rate at just 29%. That is not a minor issue you patch with a depth signing. That is a systemic crisis that requires a real answer. But Barnwell was honest about the conditions. This move only works if one of those top prospects actually falls. Arvell Reese is almost certainly not making it past the top 10. The Jets at 2. The Titans at 4, the Giants at 5, they all have legitimate reasons to take him. David Bailey is another long shot to slip. 14.5 sacks in a single season, the second highest single season total in Texas A&M Aggies history. The one wild card with Bailey is character. Beat reporters covering the draft process say scouts want more consistent energy from him behind the scenes. And there was apparently a physical altercation with a photographer last year. That kind of noise could give the Bears pause. The most realistic trade-up target among the 3 is Reuben Bain Jr. He is a relentless, high-motor disruptor who can wreak havoc from multiple alignments, but his arm length, just 30 inches and 7/8 of an inch, has fueled legitimate debate about whether he can consistently win at the NFL level as a pass rusher. That uncertainty could push him into the teens, maybe even the low 20s, and if that happens, the Bears would have a very real window to pounce. Now, here is what makes this scenario believable when you study how Ryan Poles actually operates. This is a general manager who shipped the number 1 overall pick to Carolina for a blockbuster return. He moved the 9 pick on draft night with Philadelphia. He admitted after 2024's first round that he almost did something crazy to trade up for Rome Odunze, who ended up falling to them anyway. That instinct lives inside Poles. It does not go away. And if the right name starts sliding down that board on draft night, don't be surprised when the Bears are on the clock at 11 instead of 25. And if Poles decides to prioritize the offense instead, that same trade up to 11 puts Chicago in position to grab wide receiver talent like Makai Lemon or Jordan Tyson. More weapons for Caleb Williams, more spacing, more dynamic reads, more ways to punish defenses. That is never a bad thing when you are building around a generational quarterback. But let's say the trade doesn't happen. Let's say nobody falls. Let's say the Bears stay put at 25. What then? Well, there's a name generating serious buzz around Hollis Hall right now, and the same insider who nailed the Colston Loveland pick last year is already pointing directly at the next target. You remember what happened in 2025? Almost nobody had Loveland anywhere near the Bears draft board. Everyone expected Tyler Warren. One person went public with a different take. ESPN draft insider Matt Miller, he had Loveland as Chicago's pick in his final mock, said the Bears viewed him as the best tight end in the class over Warren. and compared him to Sam Laporta. The tight end Ben Johnson had turned into a Pro Bowler during his time in Detroit. The Bears took Loveland 10th overall. Miller called it. Now Miller is speaking up again. He says he's less confident about pinpointing the exact player this time around, which makes sense given that Chicago is picking 25th and the range of possibilities is naturally wider. But he would bet the pick lands on a defensive lineman, and the name he keeps hearing connected to the Bears is Zion Young out of Missouri. So why Young? Because he fits Dennis Allen's system almost perfectly, and Allen is extremely specific about what he wants from his edge defenders. He wants them big, at least 6'4", 260 pounds. He wants them long, 33-inch arms or better, and he needs power to be a core part of their game because Allen's system is built around stopping the run first and generating pressure second. You saw it with Cameron Jordan in New Orleans. You saw it with Marcus Davenport, Carl Granderson, and Trey Hendrickson. It's why they signed Odi Ingbo last year. Same mold. Zion Young checks every single box. 6'6", 261 pounds, 33-inch arms exactly. He is a mauler, a guy who bulldozes through blockers, who collapses the pocket with raw power, who plays like he genuinely loves the violence of the game. Experts describe him as relentless, as an alpha presence, as someone who carries himself with the energy of a guy who lives for big moments. He's already a solid run defender right now, and he showed real progress as a pass rusher last season with 6.5 sacks and 16.5 tackles for loss. That carried over into a strong performance at the Senior Bowl. The comparison that keeps coming up is Zadarius Smith. Same body type, same power-based style of play. When Smith came out of the draft as a fourth-round pick from Baltimore, most people assumed he'd max out as a rotational run stopper. Instead, he developed his technique, evolved his pass rush arsenal, and became a 3-time Pro Bowler with over 70 career sacks. That is the trajectory that becomes possible when the right player lands in the right system with the right coaching, and that's exactly what Young would be walking into in Chicago. A defense built specifically around his strengths, a defensive coordinator who knows precisely how to utilize his dimensions and mask whatever weaknesses he still needs to develop. A locker room that needs more guys who play with that kind of fire and physicality up front. Is Young the superstar that solves the pass rush crisis overnight? Probably not by himself, but at pick 25 in a scheme designed for him with a coaching staff that knows what to do with him, that is genuine value. Sometimes the right piece in the right place does more than the flashiest name dropped into the wrong situation. The only real question is whether he's still on the board when the Bears go on the clock. Hey, look, if you're watching this right now, you already know what's at stake for this team. The Bears have their quarterback. They've got the coaching staff. They've got the vision and the organizational direction. What's missing is the pass rusher who keeps opposing quarterbacks up at night. And this offseason, there are 3 paths to getting there: a blockbuster trade for Max Crosby, an aggressive move up on draft night, or betting on Zion Young at 25 and building the right way from there. I need to know where you stand, fam. Which one of those 3 options actually gets you fired up? Crosby in navy and orange? Trading up to 11 for an elite edge? Or trusting the process with Young and letting Allen work his magic? Drop it in the comments right now, because that conversation is way more interesting to me than anything else happening in the Windy City right now. If this video hit different, and you know it did, leave that like. It takes 2 seconds, and it means everything. Bear down, Chicago. We'll see you in the next one.